You there, the black girl in the back with the cheap uniform, get up here, now. Chase Hendricks's voice cut through the Orpheum Theater like a blade. 500 guests turned. 2 million watched online. Maya Thompson was 11 years old. Her hands trembled as he grabbed her shoulder and dragged her into the spotlight. "Let's see if you can actually sing," he said, "or if you're just taking up space." He leaned close, thinking his microphone was off. It wasn't. "Fail quietly, kid." What he didn't know. 4 hours earlier, Maya had discovered the secret that would destroy everything he'd built. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. Maya Thompson had never been on a real stage before. Not like this one. The Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles was the kind of place she'd only seen in movies. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Red velvet seats stretched back into darkness. The sound system alone probably cost more than every house on her block combined. She stood backstage with the rest of the Jefferson Elementary Choir, 20 kids in matching white shirts, trying not to touch anything. "Don't wander off," Ms. Johnson had told them. "Stay together, stay quiet, and whatever you do, don't embarrass this school." Maya understood. They were charity kids, background noise, human props for Chase Hendricks's annual gala, where rich people wrote checks and felt good about themselves. But Maya was grateful anyway. Her mother had bought her a new blouse for tonight. White clean tags still attached until this morning in case they needed to return it. The discount store on Alameda had a 7-day return policy, and $42 was $42. "You look beautiful, baby," her mother had said that morning, pinning the collar straight. "Go show them what Compton can do." Her mother was a nurse at County General. Night shifts. 12 hours, 3 times a week. She'd been asleep when Maya left for school, would be at work when Maya got home. They communicated through notes on the refrigerator and whispered conversations at midnight. Maya had 2 younger brothers. Darius was 9. Marcus was 7. She made them dinner most nights. Mac and cheese from a box hot dogs when they could afford them, rice and beans when they couldn't. She helped with homework. She made sure they brushed their teeth. That was life. You did what needed doing. But singing was different. Singing was hers. She'd started at 5 years old, standing in the second row of the New Hope Baptist Church choir. By 7, she was doing solos. By 9, Ms. Johnson at school had pulled her mother aside. "Your daughter has perfect pitch," Ms. Johnson had said. "1 in 10,000 people can hear what she hears. She identifies frequencies like a machine. It's a gift." Her mother had smiled, proud but tired. "What do we do with that?" "Berkeley, Juilliard, professional training." "That costs money." Ms. Johnson had nodded slowly. "Yes, it does." So Maya sang at church. She sang in the school choir where the music budget had been cut 3 years running. She sang in her room at night, teaching herself runs from YouTube videos on her mother's old phone, the one with the cracked screen, and the battery that died at 40%. She'd learned to match any note she heard. She'd learned to hit a C6 in whistle register, those impossibly high notes that sounded like wind chimes. She didn't know this was rare. She didn't know most trained professionals couldn't do what she did instinctively. She just knew it felt right. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Stand in the back. Sing backup. Don't draw attention. Go home with a story to tell her brothers. But 4 hours before the show, something happened that changed everything. The choir had been instructed to wait in a holding area backstage while Chase Hendricks ran his sound check. Stay quiet. Stay invisible. Maya got restless. She wasn't trying to snoop. She just wanted to see the stage. The real stage with the lights and the microphones and the cameras. So she drifted toward the wings, keeping to the shadows, peering through a gap in the curtains. Chase Hendricks was center stage. She'd seen his face on magazine covers, on TV, on billboards. 4 platinum albums. 2 Grammy Awards. Endorsement deals with Nike and Pepsi. They called him the voice of a generation. His signature song, Higher Ground, had sold 12 million copies. The climax of that song, a sustained whistle register C6 that seemed to defy human limits, had made him a legend. Nobody else could hit that note. That's what everyone said. Maya watched him rehearse. He started with the verse. His voice was good, polished, expensive sounding. He moved through the melody with confidence, years of training evident in every breath. Then he reached the bridge. The song climbed. E5, F5, G5. Chase pushed higher. A5. His voice cracked. Maya blinked. She knew that sound. The strain, the break, the way the note shattered instead of sustaining. He'd lost it at A sharp 5, a full step and a half below the famous C6. Chase stopped. His face twisted with frustration. Damn it! He snapped at his sound engineer, a tired-looking man behind a massive mixing board. Bring the track up higher on that section. I need more support. The engineer nodded, adjusted something. Chase tried again. This time the note was perfect, crystalline, sustained, effortless. But Maya's ears caught what others wouldn't. That note wasn't coming from his throat. It was coming from the speakers. She could hear the difference, the digital shimmer, the way the sound sat on top of the music instead of inside it. Pre-recorded. Fake. Chase Hendricks couldn't sing his own signature note. The whole thing was a backing track. Maya stood frozen behind the curtain, her heart pounding. She'd just heard the biggest star in music fail at the thing he was most famous for. The thing that had made him rich. The thing that sold out stadiums. It was all a lie. She crept back to the holding area, sat down with the other kids, and said nothing. Who would believe her? She was 11 years old from Compton, wearing a $42 blouse. He was Chase Hendricks. She decided to forget what she'd heard, but Chase Hendricks hadn't forgotten about her. The gala started at 7, the Orpheum filled with 500 guests, Hollywood executives, music industry legends, tech billionaires, politicians. They wore suits that cost more than cars, dresses that cost more than houses. Cameras lined the aisles. 2 million people watched the live stream worldwide. The Jefferson Elementary Choir took their position on the back risers. 20 kids scrubbed clean, nervous smiles. Maya stood in the second row, trying to be invisible. The show went smoothly at first. Chase performed 3 songs to thunderous applause. He smiled, he charmed, he worked the crowd like the professional he was. Then came Higher Ground. Maya's pulse quickened. She knew what was coming. The backing track. The lie. Everyone would cheer for a note that wasn't real. Chase hit the first verse. Smooth. Controlled. The bridge approached. And then he stopped. The music cut. Chase held up his hand, silencing the band. The audience murmured in confusion. Hold on, Chase said into his microphone. Hold on a second. He turned. He looked directly at the choir risers, directly at Maya. You there? Maya's blood went cold. The black girl in the back, with the cheap uniform. 500 heads turned. 2 million people watched online. Yeah, you. Come up here. Now. Maya didn't move. Couldn't move. Her legs had turned to concrete. Ms. Johnson stood up. Mr. Hendricks, she's just a child. I'm giving her an opportunity, Chase said, flashing his famous smile. Isn't that what tonight's about? Opportunities for underprivileged kids? The audience murmured approval. How generous. How inspiring. Chase gestured impatiently. Come on, sweetheart. Don't be shy. Maya looked at Ms. Johnson. Ms. Johnson's face was tight with worry, but she nodded slightly. What choice did they have? Maya walked forward. Her legs shook with every step. The stage lights blinded her. The audience stretched into infinite darkness. She felt small, smaller than she'd ever felt. Chase's hand landed on her shoulder. His grip was firm, controlling. What's your name? Maya. Her voice came out thin, barely audible. Maya. He said it like he was tasting something unpleasant. Well, Maya, I hear you think you can sing." Her heart stopped. He knew. He'd seen her watching during soundcheck. He knew she'd heard him fail. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to—" "Save it." His voice was sharp. The audience couldn't hear his tone clearly to them. It still sounded friendly. But Maya heard it. Cold. Dangerous. He leaned close. His microphone was at his side off, he thought. But Maya's microphone was clipped to her collar. Still on. "Fail quietly, kid." The words went out to everyone. 2 million people heard Chase Hendricks tell an 11-year-old girl to fail quietly. Some people gasped. Others weren't sure what they'd heard. Chase didn't realize. He straightened up, smiling for the cameras. "Let's see if you can actually sing," he announced. "Or if you're just taking up space here." He snapped at his band. "Give her higher ground. Start from the bridge." The musical director hesitated. "The bridge, sir, that's—" Did I stutter? The musicians exchanged glances. The bridge of higher ground was brutal. It climbed relentlessly toward that impossible C6. Professional singers trained for years to attempt it. He was asking an untrained 11-year-old to nail it cold. He was setting her up to fail. Maya understood now. This wasn't about giving her an opportunity. This was punishment. He'd seen her watching during soundcheck. He knew she'd heard the truth. And now he was going to humiliate her in front of the world so that if she ever tried to tell anyone what she'd heard, no one would believe her. She'd just be the girl who couldn't sing. "Whenever you're ready, sweetheart," Chase said. Maya's throat tightened. Her hands trembled. The lights felt like fire on her skin. She thought about her mother working the night shift right now on her feet for 12 hours, coming home to sleep for 3 hours, before doing it again. She thought about Darius and Marcus watching at home on Ms. Johnson's laptop. She thought about every person who'd ever looked at her like she was less than, like she didn't belong, like she should know her place. She thought about her grandmother, who had passed 2 years ago, and the words she'd said at Maya's first church solo. "Baby, if someone ever tries to make you small, you stand tall. You hear me? You stand tall." Maya took a breath. She opened her mouth. And then she stopped. "Mr. Hendricks." Chase's smile flickered. "Yes." "Can you turn off the backing track, please?" Silence. Complete, absolute silence. 500 people held their breath. 2 million viewers leaned closer to their screens. Chase blinked. "Excuse me." "The backing track." Maya's voice was small, but the microphone carried it everywhere. "Can you turn it off? I want to sing it for real." The audience murmured. Confused whispers rippled through the theater. Chase's smile stayed frozen on his face, but his eyes changed. Something dangerous flickered behind them. "The backing track is part of the arrangement, sweetheart." "But you sang it without the track at soundcheck," Maya said. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. "You sang it alone. I heard you." The murmuring grew louder. "Soundcheck is different from performance." "Then can you sing it first? Show me how it's done, without the track." The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Chase stared at her. The audience stared at both of them. The cameras zoomed in tight. 3 seconds of silence. Then Chase laughed. Sharp. Harsh. "You want me to audition for you? An 11-year-old from Compton?" "No, sir." Maya's voice was respectful but steady. "I just want to see if you can actually hit the note." The theater erupted. Gasps. Scattered nervous laughter. Someone shouted something unintelligible. Chase's face flushed red. His jaw tightened. "Of course I can hit the note. I've been hitting it for 15 years. "Then show me." The challenge was out. Hanging there, impossible to ignore. Chase looked at the audience, at the cameras, at the 2 million people watching. He couldn't back down, not now, not without looking like exactly what he was. "Fine." His voice was tight, controlled fury. "You want a demonstration? You got it." He turned to his sound engineer, the tired man behind the mixing board. "Kill the backing track, all of it." The engineer hesitated. Do it. The engineer pressed a button. The fullness of the music thinned. Something disappeared from the sound, the support, the safety net, the lie. Chase raised his microphone. He began to sing. His voice was strong at first. The audience relaxed slightly. He sounded good, professional. Maybe the kid had been wrong. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. Chase moved through the verse with confidence. Years of training, perfect breath control. Every note landed where it should. Then he reached the bridge. The melody started to climb. E4, G4, B4, still solid, still controlled. D5, E5. His neck tensed. His shoulders rose. Tiny signs of strain that only someone looking for them would notice. G5, A5. Maya watched his face, watched the muscles in his throat, watched his confidence flicker. He reached for the C6. His voice cracked. It broke around A#5, the sound splintering like glass on concrete. He stopped, abruptly coughed, tried to cover with a laugh. Sorry, folks, dry throat. He smiled, but it looked painted on. That's why we use tracks during long shows, to protect the voice. But Maya had heard enough, and so had everyone else. You didn't hit it, she said quietly. Chase turned to her. The smile was gone. His face was a mask of barely controlled rage. I told you, my voice is tired. But on your album you hit that note 27 times. Maya's voice grew stronger now. I counted. And in every live video online, you hit it perfectly. Every single time. The audience shifted. Phones came out. People started recording, Googling, texting. What exactly are you trying to say? Chase's voice had an edge now, the polished veneer cracking. Maya looked at him, then at the audience, then at the cameras. I have perfect pitch, she said. I can hear frequencies. The note on your album is 1046.5 Hertz. That's C6. What you just sang was 932 Hertz. That's A#5. Someone in the audience whispered loudly. Is she right? Chase's face went from red to white. Listen, little girl. And the voice on the album? Maya continued. The words came tumbling out now, unstoppable. It doesn't sound like you. It's a woman's voice, a higher voice. I looked up your album credits. It says Sophia Mitchell additional vocals. The theater exploded in whispers. Chase stepped toward her. He wasn't smiling anymore. You need to stop talking, right now. Why? Maya asked. And for the first time since she'd been dragged onto that stage, she felt something other than fear. Because I'm telling the truth. Because you're 11 years old and you don't know what you're talking about. I know what I heard at soundcheck. Maya's voice rang clear through the theater. I know what I'm hearing now. She looked out at the audience, at the 500 faces, at the cameras, at the 2 million people watching. That note isn't yours, she said. You've been lip-syncing it for 15 years. Chase's hand shot out. He grabbed her arm. Not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to control, hard enough to hurt. We're done here. But before he could drag her off stage, a voice came from the wings. Actually, she's right. Everyone turned. A man stepped into the light, middle-aged, exhausted, wearing a headset and carrying the weight of 5 years of silence. Chase's sound engineer. I've worked for you for 5 years, Chase. His voice was steady, but Maya could see his hands shaking. Every single show I've played that backing track. You've never sung that note live, not once. The theater went completely silent. Chase's grip on Maya's arm loosened. He stared at his engineer like the man had just put a knife in his back. You're fired, Chase whispered. I know. The engineer nodded slowly. But she's 11 years old, and she's braver than I've been for 5 years. Chase stood frozen, his world crumbling around him in real time. The audience was turning. Maya could feel it. The whispers weren't confused anymore. They were angry. This is ridiculous, Chase said, His voice shook. "You're going to believe some kid over me. I have 2 Grammys. I've sold 4 million albums." "Then prove her wrong," someone shouted from the audience. "Sing the note." Another voice. "Do it live." The chant started, soft at first, then building. "Sing it, sing it, sing it." Chase's face went gray. He looked at Maya, standing there in her $42 blouse, 11 years old, less than 5 feet tall, and he saw the end of everything. "Fine," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "You think you're so special. You sing it. Right now. No preparation, no warm-up, no second chances. Let's see what you've got." The audience fell silent. Maya's hands trembled. This was the moment. Succeed or become exactly what Chase said she was, a nobody who didn't belong. From the choir section, Ms. Johnson's voice carried across the silence. "You can do this, baby. Sing like you do at church." Maya closed her eyes. She thought about her mother, her brothers, her grandmother. Every Sunday morning, in the second row of the New Hope Baptist Church choir, every note she'd ever sung alone in her room, teaching herself from YouTube, believing that somehow, someday, her voice would matter. She opened her eyes. She nodded to the band, and she began to sing. The band started playing. The opening chords of Higher Ground filled the Orpheum Theater for the second time that night. But everything was different now. The air had changed. 500 people leaned forward in their seats. 2 million viewers held their breath. Maya stood alone in the spotlight. Her throat felt dry. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She could feel Chase Hendricks standing behind her, waiting for her to fail. Waiting to say, "I told you so." Waiting to destroy her completely. The intro played through, 8 bars. Then the verse approached. Maya opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Panic seized her chest. The music kept going. The audience watched. Chase's smile widened. "Having trouble, sweetheart?" His voice was soft enough that only she could hear. "It's okay. Not everyone is meant for the spotlight." Something snapped inside Maya. She thought about Darius and Marcus watching at home. She thought about her mother, who would hear about this tomorrow. She thought about every teacher who'd told her she had a gift every Sunday morning at New Hope Baptist. Every night she'd stayed up late teaching herself runs from YouTube videos on a cracked phone. She wasn't going to fail quietly. She was going to fail loud, or she was going to succeed louder. Maya took a breath. Deep. From her diaphragm. The way Ms. Johnson had taught her. The way she'd practiced 1,000 times in her tiny bedroom. And she began to sing. Her voice started soft. Almost tentative. The first line of the verse sat low, comfortable, well within her range. She focused on the words on the story the song was telling. About rising up. About finding strength. About refusing to stay down. Some people in the audience exchanged glances. She was good, sure. Clear tone. Nice control. But nothing special. Not yet. Chase crossed his arms, still smiling. Still confident. The verse was easy. The real test was coming. Maya moved into the pre-chorus. Her voice opened, gaining power without losing control. There was something raw and honest in her tone that hadn't been there in Chase's polished performance. She wasn't performing. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was testifying. The pre-chorus climbed. D4, E4, G4. Her voice followed effortlessly. Each note pure and clear, no strain visible, no tension in her neck or shoulders. Chase's smile flickered. The verse came back. Maya settled into it, letting the melody breathe. She wasn't rushing, wasn't pushing. She was treating the song like a conversation, like she was telling a story to a friend. In the choir section, Ms. Johnson had both hands pressed against her mouth. Her eyes were wet. The bridge approached. This was where Chase had failed. This was the mountain he couldn't climb. This was the lie he'd built his entire career around. Maya didn't hesitate. She shifted registers smoothly, moving from chest voice to head voice, without a break. The transition was seamless, like water flowing over rocks. G5, A5, B5. The audience sat up straighter. Chase's arms dropped to his sides, and then Maya reached for the C6. It came out clean. No crack, no strain, no trick. Just a pure, sustained whistle register note that rang through the theater like a bell struck in perfect silence. She held it for 4 seconds. The sound was crystalline. Perfect. Impossible. Someone in the front row gasped. A woman stood up involuntarily, then sat back down embarrassed. But Maya wasn't done. She took the note higher. D6. The audience murmured. E6. Chase Hendricks took a step backward. F6. Into territory that his backing track had never even attempted. Into notes that most trained professionals couldn't touch. Into a range that belonged to maybe a handful of singers in the entire world. Maya's face was calm, almost serene. She explored the upper reaches of her voice with the confidence of someone who'd lived there her whole life. Because she had. In her tiny bedroom. In the second row of the church choir. In all the places where no one important was watching. She brought it back down. F6 to D6 to C6 to A5 to F5. Each transition seamless. Each note a small miracle. She moved into the final chorus, her voice now fully open, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. When she sang the last word and let it fade into silence, nobody moved. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then the Orpheum Theater erupted. 500 people on their feet, screaming, applauding, some with tears streaming down their faces. The sound was deafening, overwhelming, like a wave crashing over everything. The Jefferson Elementary Choir was jumping up and down, kids hugging each other. Ms. Johnson had collapsed into her seat, sobbing openly. The online stream exploded, comments flooding in too fast to read. Within 30 seconds, 50,000 people had shared the video. Within a minute, Maya Thompson was trending worldwide. Maya stood in the spotlight, breathing hard, not quite believing what had just happened. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Chase Hendricks looked like he'd been shot. His face had gone gray. His hands hung limply at his sides. He stared at Maya like she'd just reached into his chest and pulled out his heart. A woman in the front row stood up. Yolanda Carter. Legendary R&B singer. 3-time Grammy winner. One of the judges for tonight's event. She was crying. That, Yolanda said, her voice thick with emotion, is the best thing I've heard from an 11-year-old in my entire career. The applause grew louder. Baby, you didn't just hit that note, you owned it. Another judge stood. Marcus Webb, black man in his 60s. A music producer who'd worked with everyone from Alicia Keys to Kendrick Lamar. He'd been in the industry for 3 decades, had heard thousands of singers had made and broken careers with a single phone call. He was shaking his head slowly, not in disappointment, in disbelief. I need to say something. The crowd quieted slightly. I've been in this business for 30 years, Marcus said. And what we just witnessed was an 11-year-old child singing a note that the man who made it famous can't actually hit. The audience went completely silent. The weight of his words settled over them like a heavy blanket. Marcus turned to look at the crowd, at the cameras, at the 2 million people watching. That album track everyone's talking about, I mixed it. I was there in the studio. Chase's head snapped toward him. Marcus, don't. Zara was right. Marcus ignored him completely. That's not Chase's voice on those high notes. That's Sophia Mitchell. She's a session singer in Atlanta. She was paid $2,000 per song and asked to sign an NDA. She never got proper credit. The theater exploded in noise. Whispers, shouts, people standing up to get a better view. Chase stepped toward Marcus. You're lying. You're a damn liar. I've got the contracts, Chase. I've got the session recordings. I've got emails where you specifically instructed us to bury her name in the credits." "This is insane." Chase's voice cracked. "You're going to destroy my career over a backing track. Everyone uses them. Beyoncé uses tracks. Taylor Swift uses tracks. But they don't claim they're singing live." Yolanda shot back from her seat. "They don't sell tickets to unplugged tours and then lip-sync through the whole show. That's fraud, Chase. That's taking people's money under false pretenses." I didn't," Chase sputtered, looking around wildly for support. His band members were looking away. His backup singers were staring at the floor. His manager was on the phone, probably already calling lawyers. Maya watched him unravel. Part of her felt something like pity. A tiny part. The rest of her felt something else entirely. Justice. Chase turned to her. His face was twisted with rage now. All pretense of charm had vanished. All that was left was the ugly truth beneath. "You're going to regret this," he said. His voice was low, but his microphone caught every word. "You and your little school and your nobody teacher. I will make sure you never work in this industry. Do you understand me? Never. I will bury you. I will bury your entire family." The threat hung in the air. 2 million people heard it. 500 witnesses sat frozen in their seats. Ms. Johnson started to rise, ready to protect her student, but Maya spoke first. "I'm 11 years old," she said. Her voice was steady, calm. "I don't work in the industry. I just sing because I love it." She paused. "And you can't take that away from me." Chase's face contorted. "But maybe," Maya added quietly, "someone should take it away from you." For a moment, nobody breathed. Then someone in the audience started clapping. Slowly, deliberately. Another person joined. Then another. Within seconds, 500 people were on their feet, applauding not for Chase Hendricks, but for an 11-year-old girl who had refused to be silenced. Chase looked around at the cameras at the ruins of everything he'd built at the Empire crumbling around him in real time. Then he walked off stage. The moment his foot hit the wings, the theater erupted again. People were on their phones. The live stream chat was scrolling so fast it was impossible to read. Someone shouted, "Check Twitter! He's trending!" Within 5 minutes, Chase Hendricks's Wikipedia page had been edited. Within 10 major music blogs were posting articles. Within 15, 3 of his sponsors had issued statements saying they were reviewing their relationship. The hashtags spread like wildfire. Hashtag Chase Hendricks exposed. Hashtag Chase Hendricks fraud. Maya Thompson. Believe. Maya stood on that stage, surrounded by chaos she'd created simply by telling the truth, and felt something she'd never felt before. Not pride exactly, not triumph. Just the quiet certainty that she'd done the right thing, even though she had no idea what was coming next. The chaos lasted about 20 minutes before security started clearing the theater. People didn't want to leave. They wanted to talk to Maya, to take pictures, to be part of the story. But the Orpheum staff was insistent, and eventually the crowd filtered out into the Los Angeles night. Maya sat backstage in a folding chair, Ms. Johnson's arm around her shoulders. Her legs were shaking again. The adrenaline was wearing off, and reality was setting in. She'd just destroyed one of the most famous singers in the world. On live television, in front of 2 million people. "Baby, are you okay?" Ms. Johnson asked softly. "I don't know," Maya whispered. "I don't know what I am." Event organizers rushed around them, talking urgently into phones. Chase's management team had gathered in a corner, arguing in harsh whispers. People in expensive suits paced back and forth, gesturing angrily. Nobody was talking to Maya. Her mother had called 3 times from the hospital. She couldn't leave her shift, they were short-staffed, and she couldn't afford to lose the hours. Maya had answered the first call. "Baby, what happened? Are you okay? They're saying on the news that you..." I'm fine, Mama. Miss Johnson is here. I'm fine. What did you do? Maya hadn't known how to answer that question. I'll tell you when I get home. Baby, I'm so proud of you. Whatever happened, I'm so proud. Her mother was crying. Maya could hear it in her voice. Pride and fear mixed together in equal measure. I have to go, Mama. I'll see you in the morning. That had been an hour ago. Now it was nearly midnight, and Maya was still sitting in that folding chair waiting for someone to tell her what happened next. Marcus Webb appeared in front of her. He crouched down so they were eye to eye. How are you holding up? I'm scared, Maya admitted. Marcus nodded slowly. You should be. What you did tonight, it took courage most adults don't have. But there are going to be consequences. You understand that, right? Yes, sir. Chase Hendricks is a powerful man. He's got lawyers. He's got money. He's got connections. He's going to come after you. Ms. Johnson's arm tightened around Maya's shoulders. She's a child. He can't. He can try, Marcus said flatly. And he will try. That's who he is. That's how people like him operate. They don't accept losing. They don't accept being exposed. They fight back with everything they have. Maya's stomach twisted. So what do I do? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. I'm going to give you a name. Diana Carter. She's an entertainment lawyer. One of the best. She handles cases like this, artists getting exploited, credit stolen, contracts manipulated. I'm going to ask her to reach out to your family. We can't afford a lawyer, Maya said quietly. I know. Marcus typed something into his phone. That's not going to be a problem. There are people in this industry who've been waiting a long time for someone to stand up to Chase Hendricks. You just became the face of something bigger than yourself, Maya, whether you wanted to or not. He stood up. Go home. Get some sleep if you can. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day. He walked away, phone pressed to his ear. Maya looked up at Ms. Johnson. What did I do? Ms. Johnson smiled, but her eyes were worried. You told the truth, baby. And sometimes the truth has teeth. They left the theater through a back exit to avoid the crowd still gathered out front. A car was waiting. One of the event organizers had arranged it probably to get the controversial 11-year-old away from the cameras as quickly as possible. The drive back to Compton took 40 minutes. Maya stared out the window at the Los Angeles lights at the city that suddenly felt different. Dangerous. When she got home, her brothers were asleep. A neighbor had been watching them, Mrs. Patterson from 4B, who did this sometimes when Maya's mother worked nights. Child, I saw everything on the TV, Mrs. Patterson said, pulling Maya into a tight hug. You were something else entirely. Thank you, ma'am. Your mama called. She said to make sure you eat something and go to bed. She'll be home by 7. Maya nodded. She wasn't hungry. She didn't think she'd ever be hungry again. She checked on Darius and Marcus. They were curled up in the bed they shared, breathing softly. They didn't know yet. They'd slept through everything. Tomorrow they'd wake up and their sister would be famous. Or infamous. Maya went to her own bed, a mattress on the floor in the corner of the same room, and lay down without changing her clothes. She was too tired. Too overwhelmed. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. This is Diana Carter. Marcus Webb gave me your number. We should talk tomorrow. I can help. No charge. Maya stared at the message for a long time. Then another buzz. Another unknown number. You're dead. Chase is going to destroy you. Then another. Go back to the ghetto where you belong. Then another. Little girl thinks she can take down a legend. Watch your back. Maya's hands started shaking again. She turned off her phone and shoved it under her pillow. In the darkness, she could hear her brothers breathing, could hear the distant sound of traffic on the street below, could hear her own heartbeat loud and fast and afraid. She'd told the truth, and now the truth was going to cost her everything she had. Maya closed her eyes and tried to sleep. But sleep wouldn't come. Instead, she lay there in the dark, replaying everything. Chase's hand on her shoulder. The crack in his voice. The moment she'd decided to ask about the backing track. The note. The impossible, beautiful note that had come out of her throat like it had been waiting her whole life to be heard. She didn't regret it. That was the strange thing. Despite the threats, despite the fear, despite everything that was coming, she didn't regret any of it. She'd been given a choice: lie and survive, or tell the truth and face the consequences. She'd chosen truth. Whatever happened next, that was something no one could take away from her. Around 3 a.m, Maya finally drifted into an uneasy sleep. Her dreams were filled with spotlights and screaming crowds and a man's voice saying, "Fail quietly, kid," over and over again. But in her dreams, she didn't fail. In her dreams, she sang. And her voice reached all the way to the stars. When Maya woke up at 6 a.m, her phone had 2 8:47 notifications. She didn't look at them. Instead, she got up quietly, careful not to wake her brothers, and went to the tiny kitchen. She made instant oatmeal on the hot plate because the stove had been broken for 3 months and they couldn't afford to fix it. She was sitting at the table eating mechanically when the front door opened. Her mother stood there, still in her nurse's scrubs, dark circles under her eyes, 12 hours on her feet in the ER, dealing with gunshot wounds and overdoses and all the damage that cities inflict on their poorest residents. But she was smiling and crying. "Baby," she whispered. Maya stood up, and then her mother's arms were around her, holding her tight, and for a moment everything was okay. Everything was safe. "I watched it," her mother said into her hair. "Mrs. Patterson showed me on her phone during my break. Baby, you were incredible. You were so incredible." "I'm scared, Mama." "I know." Her mother pulled back, cupping Maya's face in her hands. "I know you are. But I'm here now, and whatever comes, we face it together. You hear me?" "Yes, ma'am." Her mother's face hardened slightly. "Now, tell me everything, from the beginning, and don't leave anything out." So Maya told her about the sound check, about what she'd heard, about Chase dragging her on stage, about the threats, the backing track, the moment she'd decided to speak up instead of staying silent. When she finished, her mother was quiet for a long moment. "This lawyer," she said finally. "Diana Carter. She said no charge." That's what her text said. "Then we call her, first thing. Before we do anything else, before you talk to anyone else, we call this lawyer and find out exactly what we're dealing with." Maya nodded. "Mama." "Yes, baby. Did I do the right thing?" Her mother looked at her, really looked at her. The way she used to when Maya was little, when she'd ask questions about why the world was unfair and why some people had everything, while others had nothing. "You told the truth," her mother said. "You stood up to someone who tried to humiliate you, and you told the truth. That's never wrong, baby, even when it costs you, even when it hurts. The truth is never wrong." She kissed Maya's forehead. "Now go wake up your brothers. They're going to want to see their famous sister." Maya managed a small smile. She walked to the bedroom and looked at Darius and Marcus, still sleeping peacefully, unaware that their world had changed overnight. She didn't wake them yet. Instead, she stood there for a moment, watching them breathe, thinking about everything that was coming. The lawyers, the media, the threats, the fight. She didn't know if she was ready. But she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going to fail quietly. Not now. Not ever again. The knock came at 8 a.m. Maya's mother answered the door cautiously, still in her scrubs, exhausted from the night shift, but alert. After the threatening texts Maya had shown her, she wasn't taking any chances. A woman stood in the hallway. Early 40s, black, professionally dressed in a navy blazer and crisp white blouse. She carried a leather briefcase and had kind eyes that didn't match her sharp appearance. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm Diana Carter. We spoke on the phone an hour ago." Maya's mother stepped aside. Please, come in." Diana entered the small apartment without any visible reaction to the cramped space, the worn furniture, the water stain on the ceiling. She moved like someone who'd seen 1,000 apartments just like this one, who understood that poverty wasn't a character flaw. Maya stood up from the kitchen table where she'd been sitting with her brothers. Darius and Marcus had finally been told what happened, and they'd spent the last hour asking questions Maya couldn't answer. "You're the girl," Diana said, looking at Maya. "The one who brought down Chase Hendricks." "I just told the truth." "That's exactly what you did." Diana set her briefcase on the table. "And now we need to talk about what happens next. Mrs. Thompson, you should sit down for this." Maya's mother sat. Her face was tight with worry. "First, the good news," Diana said, pulling out a folder. "What Maya did last night was not illegal. She made truthful statements about what she observed and heard. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation claims. Chase Hendricks can threaten all he wants, but he cannot successfully sue your daughter for telling the truth." "That's good," Maya's mother breathed. "That's good, right?" "It's good, but it's not the whole picture." Diana's expression darkened. An hour ago, Chase Hendricks's legal team filed a $10 million lawsuit. The number hit like a physical blow. 10 million... Maya's mother's voice cracked. We can't... Let me finish." Diana held up a hand. "They're not just suing Maya. They're suing Sophia Mitchell, the session singer. Marcus Webb, the producer who spoke up. Jefferson Elementary School for, quote, failing to supervise a minor who made defamatory statements during a school-sanctioned event. And they're suing Ms. Johnson personally." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. "Ms. Johnson? But she didn't do anything." "That's not the point. The point is intimidation. Chase knows he can't win this lawsuit. The facts are against him. But he doesn't need to win. He just needs to drag this out long enough and make it expensive enough that everyone involved goes bankrupt trying to defend themselves." "So what do we do?" Maya's mother asked. Diana looked at her steadily. "You fight. And you don't fight alone." She opened her briefcase and spread documents across the table. "Sophia Mitchell hired my firm this morning. She's covering her own legal fees, and she insisted we represent Maya pro bono. No charge, no strings attached. She said, and I quote, 'That little girl did in 3 minutes what I was too scared to do for 15 years. The least I can do is make sure she doesn't get crushed for it.'" Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "Additionally," Diana continued, "Marcus Webb has agreed to testify. He's already turned over contract session recordings and emails that prove definitively that Chase Hendricks has been using Sophia's voice on his albums without proper credit. We have evidence, real evidence, not just accusations. So we can win. We can absolutely win. But I need you to understand something." Diana looked directly at Maya. "Winning in court and winning in life are two different things. Chase Hendricks is going to try to destroy you before this ever gets to trial. He's going to drag your family through the mud. He's going to leak private information. He's going to send his fans after you. The next few weeks are going to be the hardest of your life." Maya swallowed hard. "Harder than last night. Much harder. Last night you had the element of surprise. Now he knows you're a threat, and he's going to treat you like one." The room was silent. Darius, who was 9, spoke up. "Is someone going to hurt my sister?" Diana's expression softened. "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen." "But you can't promise," Maya said quietly. "No, I can't promise. I can only promise to fight." Maya's mother reached over and took her daughter's hand. "What do you need from us?" "Right now, I need you to not talk to anyone. No reporters, no social media, no statements of any kind. Everything goes through me. I need access to Maya's phone so my tech team can document the threats she's already received, and I need you to prepare yourselves." "For what?" Diana looked at each of them in turn. "For war." By noon, the war had begun. Maya's mother had turned on the news while Diana made phone calls in the kitchen. The first thing they saw was Chase Hendricks's face filling the screen, sitting in what looked like a home office with wood paneling and awards glittering behind him. "I'm deeply hurt by the accusations made against me last night," he said, his voice smooth and controlled. "An 11-year-old child was manipulated by people with grudges against me. Former employees, bitter industry rivals to make false statements that have damaged my reputation and my livelihood." Maya stared at the screen. "I have never in my 15-year career misrepresented my abilities to my fans. The backing tracks used in my performances are standard industry practice, clearly disclosed and fully legal. What happened last night was a coordinated attack, and I intend to pursue justice through the legal system." The interviewer, a blonde woman with perfect hair, nodded sympathetically. "Chase, there are recordings circulating online that seem to show you struggling to hit the notes in question. How do you respond to that?" Chase's smile didn't waver. "I had a throat infection that night. I was performing under difficult circumstances for charity, for underprivileged children ironically, and I pushed through despite being ill. The fact that people are using a moment of physical weakness to attack my entire career is frankly disgusting." "He's lying," Maya whispered. "Of course he's lying," her mother said. "But he's good at it." The interview continued. Chase talked about how he'd dedicated his life to helping disadvantaged youth, how this attack had come from a place of jealousy and greed, how he was the real victim. "Let me be clear," he said, leaning forward with practiced sincerity. "I bear no ill will toward the child. She's 11 years old. She was used as a pawn by adults who should have known better. I hope she can move past this and have a normal life away from the spotlight that was forced upon her." Maya's hands clenched into fists. "He's making it sound like I was brainwashed." Diana walked back into the room, phone still in hand. "Turn that off. Don't watch any more of it." "But he's lying." "I know, and we'll prove that in court. But right now, watching him spin his narrative is only going to make you angry, and anger is a luxury we can't afford." Diana sat down across from Maya. "I need you focused, clear-headed. Can you do that?" Maya took a deep breath. "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Because in about 2 hours, Sophia Mitchell is going to release a video statement with supporting documentation. After that, the narrative is going to shift. But those 2 hours are going to feel like forever." They felt like longer than forever. Maya sat on the couch with her brothers while her mother tried to rest in the bedroom. Diana worked in the kitchen, making calls, sending emails, building their case piece by piece. Every few minutes, Maya's borrowed phone would buzz with alerts. More articles, more opinions, more strangers arguing about whether she was a hero or a liar. She tried not to look. She looked anyway. The comments were brutal. Half the internet seemed to believe her, half seemed to hate her, and the half that hated her was very, very loud. "Gold digger in training," one comment read. "Ghetto kid trying to get rich quick," said another. "Chase should sue her family into the ground. Someone should teach this little girl a lesson." Maya felt sick. Darius scooted closer to her on the couch. "Maya, are you okay?" "Yeah, buddy, I'm okay." "You don't look okay." "I'm just tired." Marcus, the 7-year-old, looked up from the cartoon he'd been pretending to watch. "Is the bad man going to hurt us?" Maya put an arm around each of her brothers. "Nobody's going to hurt us, I promise." She hoped she wasn't lying. At 2:47 p.m., everything changed. Diana's phone buzzed. She looked at it, and for the first time all day she smiled. "It's live. Sophia's video is live." She connected her phone to the small TV in the living room, and they all gathered to watch. Sophia Mitchell appeared on screen. She was in her 30s, beautiful, sitting in a recording studio with gold records visible behind her. But her eyes were tired, haunted. "My name is Sophia Mitchell," she said. "I'm a session singer based in Atlanta, and I'm the voice Chase Hendricks has been selling as his own for 15 years. She held up a document. This is my contract from 2009. It shows I was paid $2,000 to record the whistle register notes on Higher Ground and 4 other songs. It specifically states that I would not be credited by name and that I would never discuss my involvement publicly. She turned to another page. This is the non-disclosure agreement I signed. Violation of this NDA would have resulted in a lawsuit I couldn't afford to fight. So I stayed quiet. For 15 years I stayed quiet while a man took credit for my voice and built an empire on my talent. Sophia's voice cracked. Last night I watched an 11-year-old girl do what I was too afraid to do. She stood on that stage alone with nothing but the truth, and she refused to be silenced. She's 11. She's a child. And she has more courage than I've had in my entire adult life. Tears were running down Sophia's face now. I'm done being afraid. I'm done protecting lies. Maya Thompson told the truth, and I'm here to confirm it. Every word she said was accurate. Chase Hendricks cannot sing those notes. He has never been able to sing those notes. And he has built his entire career on the stolen voices of people like me. She held up more documents, emails, recording session logs, payment receipts. I have proof. I'm releasing all of it today, and I'm asking anyone else who has been silenced by Chase Hendricks to come forward. You're not alone anymore. We're not alone anymore. The video ended. Diana was already on her phone. It's everywhere. CNN picked it up. NBC, the New York Times. This is going viral faster than last night's performance. Maya stared at the screen where Sophia's face had been. She did that for me. She did it for herself too, Diana said. You gave her permission to tell her own truth. That's something nobody else has ever done. Within an hour, 7 more session singers came forward. Their names had been buried in album credits for years. Additional vocals, background support, production assistance. Meaningless phrases designed to hide the fact that Chase Hendricks's voice wasn't entirely his own. One by one they posted videos, shared contracts, told their stories. A woman named Patricia Hayes, who'd sung the high notes on Chase's second album. A man named Marcus Chen, whose falsetto had been used on 3 tracks. A young singer named Deshaun Williams, who'd been 20 years old when Chase's team approached him desperate for money, willing to sign anything. They told me it was normal, Deshaun said in his video. They told me everyone does it. They made me feel like I should be grateful for $2,000 in a secret. The narrative was shifting. Chase Hendricks wasn't just a fraud. He was a pattern, a system of exploitation, a machine that chewed up talented people and spit them out invisible. And Maya Thompson had thrown a wrench into the gears. That evening, Maya's phone rang. Diana had given her a new number, supposedly private, supposedly secure. Hello. Maya Thompson. The voice was deep male unfamiliar. You made a big mistake last night. Maya's blood went cold. Who is this? Someone who wants to help you before it's too late. Chase Hendricks is not someone you want as an enemy. He has connections you can't imagine. He can make your life very, very difficult. Is this a threat? It's a warning, a friendly one. There's still time to fix this. Issue an apology. Say you were confused, that you misunderstood what you heard. Chase is prepared to be generous. The scholarship offer is still on the table. $50,000. Full ride to any music program you want. All you have to do is admit you were wrong. Maya gripped the phone tighter. I wasn't wrong. You're a child. You don't understand how the world works. People who fight against power lose. That's just reality. Take the money. Protect your family. Move on with your life. And if I don't? Silence. Then, by tomorrow morning, there will be stories about you, about your mother, about your brothers, private things, painful things, things that will follow you forever. Maya's hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Are you threatening my family? I'm offering you a chance to avoid unnecessary suffering. The choice is yours. The line went dead. Maya sat frozen for a long moment. Then she walked to the kitchen where Diana was working. Someone just called me, from a blocked number. They offered me $50,000 to apologize and say I was wrong. Diana looked up sharply. Did they threaten you? They said there would be stories tomorrow, about my family, private things. Diana's expression hardened. They're trying to scare you. That's what bullies do when they're losing. They try to make you too afraid to fight. Are they going to hurt my family? They're going to try to hurt your reputation. That's not the same thing, even though it feels like it. Diana stood up. Maya, listen to me. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen powerful men destroy people who challenge them, but I've also seen them fail. Chase Hendricks is terrified right now. That's why he's making threats. Because he knows the truth is coming out, and he can't stop it. What do I do? Diana put a hand on Maya's shoulder. You do what you've been doing. You tell the truth. You stand your ground. And you trust that there are more good people in this world than bad ones. Maya wanted to believe her. She wasn't sure she could. That night, Maya lay awake again. The apartment was quiet. Her brothers were asleep. Her mother had finally given in to exhaustion and was snoring softly in the next room. Diana had gone home, promising to be back first thing in the morning. Maya stared at the ceiling and thought about the phone call. $50,000. That was more money than her mother made in 2 years. It could fix everything. New apartment, new clothes for her brothers, maybe even a working stove instead of a hot plate. All she had to do was lie. Say she was wrong. Say she was confused. Say Chase Hendricks was the victim, and she was just a stupid kid who didn't understand what she'd heard. The money would change their lives, but the lie would change her. Maya thought about her grandmother, who had died 2 years ago. A strong woman who had survived things Maya couldn't imagine, the segregated South poverty loss grief, and had come out the other side with her dignity intact. Baby, her grandmother used to say, your integrity is the one thing nobody can take from you. You can give it away, but nobody can take it. So don't you ever give it away. Not for money, not for comfort, not for anything. Maya closed her eyes. $50,000, or her integrity. She already knew which one she was choosing. She'd known from the moment she asked Chase Hendricks to turn off the backing track. Some things weren't for sale. Not her voice, not her truth, not her. The next morning, the stories dropped. Just like the man on the phone had promised. Maya woke up to her mother crying in the kitchen. She ran out to find her mother staring at a laptop screen, tears streaming down her face, hand pressed against her mouth. Mama! What is it? What's wrong? Her mother couldn't speak. She just turned the laptop around. Maya read the headline. Maya Thompson's Family, A History of Fraud and Deception. Below it was a photo of their apartment building with the peeling paint and the broken security gate. Below that, a photo of Maya's father, a man she hadn't seen since she was 3 years old, being led away in handcuffs. The article claimed that Maya's father had been convicted of fraud, that the family had a history of deception, that Maya's mother had been fired from a previous job for falsifying records. All of it lies, twisted versions of complicated truths. Maya's father was in prison, yes, for drugs, not fraud. He'd been gone from their lives for 8 years. Maya's mother had left a previous job, yes, because the employer hadn't paid her for 3 months, and she'd reported them to the labor board. But the article made it sound like criminality was in Maya's blood, like she couldn't be trusted, like the whole family was running some kind of scam. It's not true, Maya whispered. Mama, we have to tell people it's not true. Her mother looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. Baby, the people who want to believe the worst will believe the worst. That's how this works. So we just let them lie. No. Diana's voice came from the doorway. None of them had heard her come in. She stood there with fire in her eyes and a phone in her hand. We fight back. She walked to the table and set down her phone. I've already called the editors. These claims are defamatory and they know it. But more importantly, look at this. She pulled up Twitter on her phone. The hashtag #HadIStandWithMaya was trending #1. Thousands upon thousands of messages from strangers all over the world. Don't let them break you, Maya. We see what they're doing. We're not falling for it. Chase Hendricks is a coward. Maya Thompson is a hero. This little girl has more integrity than half the music industry combined. Maya scrolled through the messages, tears blurring her vision. Why? She whispered. Why do they care? They don't even know me. Diana sat down across from her. Because everyone knows what it's like to be small, to feel powerless, to watch someone rich and famous get away with things that would destroy anyone else. And when they see a little girl stand up and refuse to back down, it reminds them that courage isn't about size. It's about choice. Maya wiped her eyes. So what do we do now? Diana smiled. Now, we go to court. The Los Angeles Superior Court was nothing like Maya had imagined. She'd expected something grand. Marble columns, soaring ceilings, the kind of place where justice felt inevitable. Instead, Department 23 was small, cramped, and smelled faintly of old coffee and anxiety. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The wood paneling on the walls was chipped in places. Maya sat at the defense table between her mother and Diana Carter. Her legs dangled from the chair, not quite reaching the floor. She wore the same white blouse from the gala, still the nicest thing she owned, and her mother had braided her hair that morning with trembling hands. "You're going to be fine," her mother had whispered. "Whatever happens, you're going to be fine." Maya wasn't sure that was true. Across the aisle, Chase Hendricks sat with 5 lawyers in matching dark suits. He wore a navy blazer and an expression of wounded dignity, like he was the victim here. Like he was the one who'd been dragged onto a stage and humiliated in front of 2 million people. Their eyes met briefly. Chase smiled. It was the smile of a man who still believed he was going to win. The gallery behind them was packed. 30 people, mostly reporters, crammed into wooden benches that creaked every time someone shifted. A few supporters had managed to get in Ms. Johnson Marcus Webb, 2 of the session singers who'd come forward. Sophia Mitchell sat in the front row, her face drawn but determined. This wasn't the full trial. Diana had explained that yesterday, going over the details until Maya's head spun. This was a preliminary hearing on Chase's motion for an injunction, a legal order that would force Maya, Sophia, and Marcus to stop talking about what had happened until the main case was decided. "He's trying to silence you," Diana had said. "If he gets this injunction, you can't give interviews. You can't post on social media. You can't tell your side of the story while he controls the narrative. That's why today matters. That's why we have to win." The bailiff called for everyone to rise. Judge Patricia Moreno entered. Latina woman, early 60s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun. She had the kind of face that revealed nothing. No sympathy, no bias, no indication of which way she was leaning. "Be seated." Everyone sat. Judge Moreno shuffled through papers on her desk, then looked up at Chase's legal team. "Mr. Kraft, I've reviewed your motion. You're seeking an emergency injunction against 3 defendants, Maya Thompson, age 11, Sophia Mitchell, and Marcus Webb. You claim their statements constitute defamation and are causing irreparable harm to your client's reputation and livelihood. Is that correct?" Robert Kraft stood. He was in his 50s, gray-haired, with the polished confidence of a man who'd never lost a case he cared about winning. "That is correct, Your Honor. My client has suffered catastrophic damage to his career and personal reputation as a result of false and malicious statements made by the defendants. 3 major sponsors have terminated their contracts. His upcoming tour has been canceled. He has received death threats. The ongoing publication of these defamatory statements must be stopped immediately to prevent further harm." Judge Moreno nodded slowly. Ms. Carter, your response. Diana stood. Your Honor, this motion is frivolous on its face. An injunction requires the plaintiff to demonstrate a likelihood of success on the merits. Mr. Hendricks cannot do that because the statements made by my clients were true. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. We have extensive documentation proving that every statement made by Maya Thompson, Sophia Mitchell, and Marcus Webb was factually accurate. That's for the trial to determine, Kraft interrupted. No, Diana shot back. That's for today to establish. An injunction that silences truthful speech is unconstitutional. Mr. Hendricks is asking this court to violate the First Amendment rights of an 11-year-old child because she embarrassed him on television. Your Honor, Kraft began. Judge Moreno held up a hand. I'll hear from both sides. Mr. Kraft, present your evidence. Kraft nodded and launched into his argument. He talked about Chase's sterling reputation, his charitable work, his 15 years of service to the music industry. He characterized Maya's statements as the manipulated words of a child who'd been coached by bitter former employees with axes to grind. Miss Thompson is 11 years old, Kraft said, gesturing toward Maya without looking at her. She lacks the expertise to make technical claims about vocal frequencies and recording methods. Her so-called perfect pitch is an unverified claim. She was clearly fed information by adults who knew they couldn't make these accusations themselves without legal consequences. Maya's hands clenched under the table. Her mother's hand found hers and squeezed. Kraft continued for 20 minutes, painting a picture of Chase as the innocent victim of a coordinated attack by jealous competitors and ungrateful former collaborators. He never once addressed the actual evidence, never mentioned the contracts Sophia had produced, never explained why Chase had failed to hit the note when asked to perform it live. When he finally sat down, Judge Moreno turned to Diana. Ms. Carter. Diana stood. Your Honor, I'd like to show the court something. She approached the bench with a tablet. This is unedited footage from the charity gala. I'd like to play it for the court. Kraft jumped up. Your Honor, this footage has been widely circulated and manipulated. It's the official broadcast recording provided by the network, Diana said. Authenticated and unaltered. Judge Moreno nodded. Play it. The courtroom fell silent as the video began. Maya watched herself on screen, watched Chase drag her into the spotlight, watched him say, "The black girl in the back with the cheap uniform," watched him whisper, "Fail quietly, kid," into a live microphone. She heard the audience gasp when her younger self asked Chase to turn off the backing track, heard the crack in his voice when he tried to hit the note and failed, heard the sound engineer step forward and confirm everything she'd said. And then she watched herself sing. The C6 rang through the courtroom speakers clear and pure, and even now, watching it happen to someone who felt like a stranger, Maya felt goosebumps rise on her arms. When the video ended, the courtroom was silent. Judge Moreno looked at Chase. Mr. Hendricks. Chase straightened in his seat. Yes, Your Honor. In that video, you attempted to sing the note in question. You failed. Can you explain that? Kraft started to stand, but Judge Moreno silenced him with a look. I'm asking your client directly, Mr. Kraft. Mr. Hendricks, explain. Chase cleared his throat. As I've said publicly, Your Honor, I was suffering from a throat infection that night. I was performing despite being ill for charity, and my voice gave out at an unfortunate moment. A throat infection. Yes, Your Honor. Do you have medical records documenting this illness? Silence. Mr. Hendricks. My personal physician can provide testimony about my ongoing vocal health issues. That's not what I asked. Do you have documentation from that night or the days surrounding it showing you were diagnosed with a throat infection? More silence. Chase looked at his lawyers. Kraft was staring at the table. No, Your Honor. I didn't seek medical attention that night. So you performed at a major charity event with a throat infection severe enough to prevent you from singing your signature note, but you didn't see a doctor. I pushed through for the children. Judge Moreno's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Ms. Carter, you said you have documentation supporting your client's claims. Diana nodded. I'd like to call Sophia Mitchell to the stand. Sophia walked forward, was sworn in, and took her seat. Up close, Maya could see that her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Miss Mitchell, Diana began, can you tell the court about your professional relationship with Chase Hendricks? Sophia took a breath. In 2009, I was approached by Mr. Hendricks' production team. They'd heard demos of my singing and were interested in my whistle register, my ability to hit very high notes. They asked me to record several vocal tracks for what they called production support. And what were you paid for this work? $2,000 per song, 5 songs total, $10,000. Were you given proper credit on the albums? No. My name appears in the liner notes as additional vocals, buried in small print that nobody reads. I was never identified as the singer of those notes. And why didn't you speak up before now? Sophia's voice tightened. Because I signed a non-disclosure agreement. I was 23 years old. I needed the money. They told me it was standard practice that everyone did it, and they made it very clear that if I ever talked publicly about my involvement, they would sue me for everything I had. Diana held up a document. Is this your contract? Sophia looked at it. Yes. And this is your NDA? Yes. I'd like to enter these into evidence, Your Honor. Judge Moreno accepted the documents. Diana turned back to Sophia. Miss Mitchell, when you watched Maya Thompson on that stage, what did you think? Sophia's eyes glistened. I thought, finally. Someone said it out loud. Someone told the truth that I've been carrying for 15 years. And what made you decide to come forward? A tear slid down Sophia's cheek. She's 11 years old. She's a child. And she has more courage than I've had my entire adult life. I couldn't let her stand alone. I couldn't let her be destroyed for telling the truth that I was too afraid to tell. Kraft stood for cross-examination. Miss Mitchell, you signed a legally binding contract, correct? Yes. And that contract clearly stated that your work was for production support, not lead vocals. It said that, yes, but that's not what my voice was used for. You were paid the agreed-upon amount. I was. And you accepted that payment willingly. Sophia's jaw tightened. I was 23 years old. I was broke. I would have signed anything. So you have no one to blame but yourself for the terms you agreed to. Diana was on her feet. Objection. Argumentative. Sustained. Kraft tried a different angle. Miss Mitchell, you're currently promoting a solo album, aren't you? I have an album coming out, yes. And the publicity from this controversy has been helpful for your career. Sophia stared at him. You think I'm doing this for publicity? I think the timing is very convenient. I'm doing this because a little girl was braver than I was. I'm doing this because I'm tired of lying. I'm doing this because what Chase Hendricks did to me, he's done to dozens of other singers, and someone needed to stop him. That's not an answer to my question. It's the only answer that matters. Judge Moreno intervened. Move on, Mr. Kraft. Diana called Marcus Webb next. The producer walked to the stand like a man carrying a heavy weight. He'd been in the industry for 30 years. He'd made fortunes. He'd won awards, and now he was about to burn bridges that could never be rebuilt. Mr. Webb, Diana said, you were the mixing engineer on Chase Hendricks's 2009 album, correct? I was. Can you describe the recording process for the song Higher Ground? Marcus nodded slowly. Chase recorded his lead vocals over 2 days. He was good, solid technique, nice tone. But when it came to the whistle register section, he couldn't hit it. Tried maybe 40-50 times. Kept cracking. What happened then? The producer made a call. A few days later, Sophia Mitchell came in. She recorded the high notes in one take. Perfect. And then we layered her voice over Chase's track and mixed it so it sounded like a natural transition. Was Sophia given credit for this contribution? No. We were told to bury her name, make it invisible. And you went along with that? Marcus's face crumpled. Yeah, I did. I've been going along with things like that for 30 years. Because that's what you do in this industry. You protect the star. You protect the money. You keep your mouth shut and collect your check. He looked at Maya. But I'm done. I watched an 11-year-old girl refuse to be silenced, and I realized I've been a coward my whole career. So yeah, I'm telling the truth now. Better late than never. Diana sat down. Kraft approached Marcus like a shark circling wounded prey. Mr. Webb, you were fired from your last major production job, weren't you? I was let go, yes. And you blame Chase Hendricks for that. Chase had nothing to do with it. But you harbor resentment toward successful artists, don't you? Artists who've achieved what you never could. Marcus laughed bitterly. Man, I've got 4 platinum albums and 2 Grammys on my shelf. I don't need to be jealous of anyone. Then why come forward now? Why try to destroy a man's career? Marcus leaned forward. Because he destroyed careers first. Because he stole credit from people who couldn't fight back. Because he built an empire on lies and someone needed to tell the truth. Even if it means breaking confidentiality agreements. Even then, some things are more important than contracts. Kraft returned to his table visibly frustrated. Judge Moreno looked at the clock. We'll take a 15-minute recess. Maya's legs were numb from sitting. She stood and stretched, and her mother pulled her into a tight hug. You're doing great, baby. You're doing so great. I haven't done anything. I just sat here. You showed up. That's everything. Diana approached them, her expression cautiously optimistic. It's going well. The judge sees through their arguments. But there's one more thing we need. What? Diana looked at Maya. Chase's lawyers are going to argue that you were coached, that you didn't really understand what you were saying on that stage. The best way to counter that is for you to speak for yourself. Maya's stomach dropped. You want me to testify? You don't have to. We can probably win without it. But if you take that stand and tell your story in your own words, it removes any doubt. It shows the judge exactly who you are and why you did what you did. Maya looked at her mother. Her mother's face was torn. Baby, it's your choice. Whatever you decide, I support you. Maya thought about Chase Hendricks sitting across the courtroom, about his smile, about the way he'd grabbed her arm and whispered threats into a live microphone, about the man on the phone offering her $50,000 to lie. She thought about Sophia, who'd been silent for 15 years, about Marcus, who'd been a coward for 3 decades, about all the people watching, waiting to see if an 11-year-old girl could stand up against a machine designed to crush her. I'll do it, Maya said. Diana nodded. Then let's finish this, court resumed. Diana stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call Maya Thompson to the stand. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Kraft half rose from his seat, then sat back down. Maya walked to the witness stand on legs that felt like jelly. She was sworn in. She sat down. The chair was too big for her. Her feet dangled above the floor. Diana approached with a gentle smile. Maya, can you tell the court how old you are? I'm 11. And where do you go to school? Jefferson Elementary in Compton. How long have you been singing? Maya relaxed slightly. This was familiar territory. Since I was 5. I started in the choir at New Hope Baptist Church. Ms. Johnson, she's my choir teacher at school, she heard me sing when I was 7 and told my mama I had perfect pitch. Can you explain what perfect pitch means? It means I can hear a note and know exactly what frequency it is. Like if someone plays a C on the piano, I know it's a C without anyone telling me. I can hear the difference between notes that are really close together. It's like, I don't know, it's like how some people can see colors that other people can't see. And on the night of the charity gala, you heard something during sound check that concerned you. Can you tell us about that? Maya took a breath. I wasn't supposed to be watching. We were supposed to stay backstage, but I wanted to see the stage, so I snuck over to the wings, and I heard Mr. Hendricks practicing the song. Higher ground. He tried to hit the high note and his voice cracked. Really bad, like way below where the note was supposed to be. What happened next? He got mad. He yelled at his sound engineer to turn up the backing track, and when he sang it again, the note was perfect. But what? It wasn't coming from him. I could hear the difference. The note was coming from the speakers, not from his throat. It's hard to explain, but live voices sound different than recorded ones. They have more texture. The note from the speakers was too smooth, too perfect. And what did you do with this information? Nothing. I went back to the choir and sat down. I didn't tell anyone. I thought, who would believe me? I'm just a kid from Compton. He's Chase Hendricks. So why did you speak up later? Maya's voice hardened. Because he dragged me onto that stage to humiliate me. He called me the black girl in the back with the cheap uniform. He told me to fail quietly. And I realized he knew I'd hurt him. He was trying to destroy me first so that if I ever told the truth, no one would believe me. And you decided not to stay quiet. I decided I wasn't going to lie. Not for him, not for anyone. Diana nodded. Thank you, Maya. No further questions. Kraft stood. He approached Maya with what was probably meant to be a reassuring smile. It made her skin crawl. Maya, you seem like a very bright young girl. Thank you. Very well spoken. Almost like you've been rehearsed. I haven't been rehearsed. I'm just telling the truth. The truth as you understand it. The truth as it is. Kraft's smile tightened. Maya, you claim to have perfect pitch. But you've never been formally tested for this ability, have you? No, sir. Tests cost money. So we only have your word for it. You have my word. You have Ms. Johnson's word. You have the fact that I knew exactly what frequency Mr. Hendricks was singing when he cracked 932 Hz A-sharp 5, while everyone else in that theater just heard a bad note. Kraft paused. You memorized that number. I didn't memorize it. I heard it. I remember sounds the way other people remember faces. That's very convenient. Maya stared at him. Mr. Kraft, your client couldn't sing a C6 when the judge asked him to explain why. That's not convenient. That's proof. The gallery stirred. Someone in the back stifled a laugh. Kraft's face reddened. No further questions. Judge Moreno looked at Maya. You can step down. Maya returned to her seat. Her mother grabbed her hand and squeezed so hard it almost hurt. I'm so proud of you, her mother whispered. So proud. Judge Moreno gathered her papers. I've heard enough. I'm prepared to rule. The courtroom went silent. Mr. Hendricks, you've asked this court to silence people who have accused you of fraud. You've claimed their statements are false and defamatory. But in the course of this hearing, I've seen video evidence of you failing to perform the very note you claim to sing. I've heard testimony from a session singer with contracts proving she recorded the notes in question. I've heard from a producer who was present during the recording sessions. And I've heard from an 11-year-old child who has demonstrated more integrity in this courtroom than many adults I've encountered in my career. She looked at Chase directly. Mr. Hendricks, can you right now in this courtroom sing the note in question? Chase's lawyer started to rise. Your Honor, my client's vocal abilities are not on trial. They are exactly on trial. You're asking me to issue an injunction that declares these statements false. Prove they're false. Sing the note. The courtroom held its breath. Chase sat frozen. His mouth opened, closed. His hands gripped the edge of the table. My voice isn't warmed up. I can't just perform on demand. You performed on demand for 15 years. You sold tickets to live shows. You accepted Grammy Awards. Surely you can demonstrate it once. Silence. Chase said nothing. Judge Moreno nodded slowly. That's what I thought. She picked up her gavel. The motion for injunction is denied. Furthermore, I'm sanctioning the plaintiff for bringing a frivolous lawsuit intended to silence truthful speech and intimidate witnesses. Mr. Hendricks, you don't get to drag an 11-year-old child into court because she embarrassed you. She looked at Maya. Miss Thompson, you are free to continue telling your story. That's called the First Amendment. It protects truth even when truth is inconvenient for powerful people. The gavel came down. The gallery erupted. Maya felt her mother's arms wrap around her, felt Ms. Johnson pushing through the crowd to reach her, heard Sophia sobbing with relief somewhere behind her. Chase Hendricks sat at the plaintiff's table motionless, staring at nothing. His lawyers were already packing their briefcases. His career was already ending. And Maya Thompson, 11 years old, 4 feet 7 inches tall, had just won the first battle in a war she never wanted to fight. The courtroom doors burst open and Maya walked into a storm. Cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions, microphones thrust toward her face, flashes popping like lightning. Her mother pulled her close, shielding her with her body, while Diana Carter and 2 security guards carved a path through the chaos. Maya, how do you feel about the verdict? Maya, what's your message to Chase Hendricks? Maya, are you going to pursue a music career? She didn't answer any of them. Couldn't. Her head was spinning, her legs were shaking, and all she wanted was to get somewhere quiet, where she could breathe. They made it to a black SUV waiting at the curb. Diana helped them inside, slammed the door, and the noise dropped to a muffled roar. Maya's mother pulled her into a hug so tight it hurt. You did it, baby. You did it. We did it, Maya whispered. All of us. Through the tinted windows, she could see the crowd still pressing against the barricades. Reporters doing stand-ups. Photographers trying to get shots through the glass. It was surreal, like watching a movie about someone else's life. Diana's phone was already ringing. That was CNN, and NBC, and the New York Times. Everyone wants an interview. Not today, Maya's mother said firmly. She needs to rest. She needs to be a child for 5 minutes. Diana nodded. I'll hold them off. But Maya, you should know this isn't over. The injunction was denied, but Chase can still pursue the main lawsuit. And there's going to be fallout. A lot of it. What kind of fallout? The kind that changes everything. She wasn't wrong. By the time they got back to the apartment in Compton, the fallout had already begun. Maya's phone, the new one Diana had given her, was exploding with notifications. She ignored them. Her brothers were waiting at home with Mrs. Patterson, and when she walked through the door, Darius and Marcus nearly knocked her over. You were on TV, Marcus shouted. Everyone's talking about you. The judge said you told the truth, Darius added. She said the bad man was lying. Maya hugged them both, burying her face in their hair, breathing in the familiar smell of home. I'm okay, she said. Everything's okay. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't quite true. Everything was about to change. That night, the news broke like a dam bursting. Every major network led with the story. Pop star's career implodes after courtroom humiliation. 11-year-old girl exposes music industry fraud. Chase Hendricks, the voice that wasn't his. The 60 Minutes segment that Rachel Goldstein had been working on aired that Sunday. 18 million people watched. They saw the contracts. They saw the session recordings. They saw musician after musician come forward with stories of exploitation and silencing. They saw Maya sitting in her small apartment, explaining what perfect pitch was and how she'd known the truth from the moment she heard it. I wasn't trying to hurt him, she said on camera. I was just telling the truth. I didn't know the truth could be so dangerous. Within a week, Chase Hendricks's remaining sponsors had all withdrawn. Nike released a statement expressing deep concern about the allegations. Pepsi terminated their contract immediately. His record label dropped him, citing breach of trust with consumers and the artistic community. His Vegas residency was canceled. His upcoming world tour was scrapped. Ticket holders filed for refunds, and when the numbers came in, the damage was staggering. $23 million in canceled contracts, 15,000 ticket holders demanding their money back. A career built over 15 years destroyed in 15 days. But Maya didn't celebrate. She watched the news coverage from her living room couch, her brothers on either side of her, and felt something she didn't expect. Sadness. Not for Chase Hendricks. He'd made his choices. He'd built his empire on stolen voices and silenced victims. He deserved what was happening to him. But sadness for what the whole thing meant. For the ugliness that had been exposed. For the system that had protected him for so long. For all the Sophia Mitchells who had suffered in silence, afraid to speak up, afraid to fight back. "Baby, you okay?" her mother asked from the kitchen. "Just thinking." "About what?" Maya watched Chase Hendricks's face on the screen, watched him leaving a building with his head down while reporters shouted questions he wouldn't answer. About how many people knew. All those years. All those people in the industry who knew he was lying and nobody said anything. Her mother came to sit beside her. "That's how power works, baby. It makes people afraid. It makes them think staying quiet is safer than speaking up. But it's not. No, it's not. But most people don't figure that out until someone shows them. Someone like you." Maya leaned against her mother's shoulder. "I didn't want to be someone like me. I just wanted to sing." "I know, baby. I know." 3 months after the courtroom victory, Chase Hendricks filed for bankruptcy. The class action lawsuit that Diana had organized settled for $23 million. 15,000 ticket holders received refunds. Session singers who'd been silenced by NDAs were released from their contracts and given proper credit on re-released albums. Chase's mansion in the Hollywood Hills went up for sale. His car collection was auctioned off. His recording studio, his music rights, everything he'd accumulated over 15 years of fraud was liquidated to pay debts and legal fees. The Grammy committee announced they were reviewing his awards. A month later, they made history. Both of Chase Hendricks' Grammy Awards were officially revoked. The Recording Academy cited fraudulent representation of vocal performance. It was the first time in Grammy history that awards had been taken back. Maya watched the announcement on her phone, sitting in the choir room at Jefferson Elementary after school. Ms. Johnson sat beside her. "How do you feel?" Maya thought about the question. "I don't know. It's weird. I thought I'd feel happy, or satisfied, or something, but I just feel empty, tired." Ms. Johnson put an arm around her. "That's normal, baby. You've been fighting for 3 months. Your body doesn't know how to stop yet. Do I have to keep fighting?" "No, the fighting's done. Now comes the hard part." "What's the hard part?" Ms. Johnson smiled. "Living." 6 months later, Chase Hendricks attempted a comeback. He announced a small club tour. Unplugged and unfiltered. 20 dates in intimate venues. Everything live, everything acoustic, complete transparency. It was supposed to prove that he could still sing, that the whole controversy had been overblown, that he deserved a second chance. Maya heard about it from Diana, who still checked in regularly to make sure the family was doing okay. "He sold 11% of tickets," Diana said. "Most of the venues are canceling." "Are you going to go?" her mother asked. Maya shook her head. "No, I don't need to see it." She'd moved on, or she was trying to. The offers had started coming in almost immediately after the court case. Record labels, management companies, talent agencies. Everyone wanted a piece of the 11-year-old girl who'd brought down a music industry giant. Her mother declined them all. "She's a child," she told every executive who called. "She needs to go to school. She needs to have a normal life. The music industry can wait." But Maya knew the music industry wouldn't wait forever. And she wasn't sure she wanted it to. The scholarship offers were different. Berkeley reached out. Juilliard. The Manhattan School of Music. Full rides, all of them. The same programs that had been impossible dreams 6 months ago were now begging her to attend. "You don't have to decide anything now," her mother said. "You're 12. You have time. What if I don't want any of it? Her mother looked at her carefully. What do you mean? What if I just want to sing at church? What if I just want to be normal? Baby, you can want whatever you want, but you have to be honest with yourself about what that is. Maya thought about it for a long time. Finally, she signed with a small independent record label run by black musicians who understood what it meant to build something real. The contract was unusual. No album required until she was 16, complete creative control over her music, ownership of her masters, and 15% of all earnings going to a fund she'd created. She called it Unbreakable Voices. The fund provided scholarships for young singers from underprivileged backgrounds, free vocal training, music theory lessons, and most importantly, legal education about contracts and rights, so no one else would sign away their voice without understanding what they were giving up. 50 scholarships the first year, 200 by year 3. Maya didn't record an album. She wasn't ready for that. But she did record one single. My Own Voice. She wrote it with Sophia Mitchell, who had become something like an older sister to her over the past months. They spent weeks working on it together, trading lyrics back and forth, arguing about melodies, pushing each other to dig deeper. The song was about finding courage, about speaking truth, about saying no when everyone expects you to fold. The music video was shot in 3 locations: Maya's church in Compton, her school choir room, and her apartment. No fancy sets, no expensive production, just real places where her real voice had been born. At the end of the video, 50 scholarship recipients joined her for the final chorus. Every race, every background, every one of them credited by name in the liner notes. My Own Voice went gold in 6 weeks. Maya watched the certification announcement on her phone, sitting in the same bedroom she shared with her brothers on the same mattress on the floor she'd slept on her whole life. You could afford a new apartment now, her mother said. A new bed at least. I know. So why don't you? Maya looked around the room, at the water stain on the ceiling, at the cracked window, at Darius and Marcus's drawings taped to the wall. Because this is home. This is where I learned to sing. This is where Grandma used to visit. This is where everything important happened. Her mother sat down beside her. You can take the important things with you, baby. They don't live in walls. They live in here. She touched Maya's chest. And here. She touched Maya's head. Maya leaned against her mother. Maybe soon. Not yet. Okay, baby. Not yet. 1 year after the charity gala, Maya received an invitation she never expected. The Grammy Awards wanted her to perform. Not to accept an award, though she'd been nominated for Best New Artist, which felt surreal, but to perform My Own Voice on the biggest stage in music. You don't have to do it, her mother said. You've already proved everything you need to prove. I know. So, Maya thought about the last time she'd stood on a stage with cameras pointing at her. The fear, the trembling hands, the moment Chase Hendricks had grabbed her shoulder and tried to make her small. I want to do it, she said. Why? Because the last time I sang on a stage like that, I was scared. I was fighting. I was trying to survive. This time, I just want to sing. Her mother smiled. Then sing, baby. Sing. The Staples Center was nothing like the Orpheum Theater. 20,000 people filled the arena. Millions more watched from home. The stage was massive, ringed with lights and cameras, and enough technology to launch a spacecraft. Maya stood backstage wearing a simple white dress her mother had made by hand. No designer labels, no borrowed jewelry, just her. Sophia Mitchell found her in the green room. How are you feeling? Terrified. Sophia laughed. Good. That means you care. Were you this scared before your first Grammy performance? Baby, I'm still scared every time. The fear doesn't go away. You just learn to sing through it. A production assistant appeared at the door. Miss Thompson, 5 minutes. Maya took a deep breath. Sophia hugged her tight. You've got this. You've always had this." Maya walked to the stage entrance where Ms. Johnson was waiting. "I'm so proud of you," Ms. Johnson said. "From that first day in church when you were 5 years old, I knew you were special. But I never imagined this. I couldn't have done any of this without you." "Yes, you could have. You just wouldn't have wanted to." They hugged. "Now go," Ms. Johnson said. "Go show them what Compton can do." The lights went dark. Maya walked onto the stage. She couldn't see the audience, 20,000 faces hidden by the glare of the spotlights, but she could feel them. The anticipation, the held breath, the weight of millions of eyes watching. The piano began. Sophia was playing. They'd arranged it that way, the two of them together on that enormous stage. The woman who'd been silenced for 15 years, and the girl who'd refused to be silent at all. Maya opened her mouth and began to sing. Her voice started soft, gentle, almost fragile. The first verse was a conversation, not a performance. She was telling a story. Her story. About being small in a big world. About being told to know her place. About finding the courage to stand up when everyone expected her to sit down. The pre-chorus built. Her voice grew stronger. She could feel the audience leaning forward, drawn in by something they couldn't name. Then the chorus hit. Maya let go of everything. The fear, the doubt, the weight of the past year. She let it all fall away, and what was left was just her voice pouring out of her like light through a window. The high notes came effortlessly, not because they were easy, but because they were hers. She'd earned them. Every hour of practice in her tiny bedroom, every Sunday morning in the church choir, every moment she'd refused to give up. The final chorus approached. Maya looked out at the darkness where the audience waited. She thought about her grandmother, who would have given anything to see this moment. She thought about her mother watching from somewhere in that crowd with tears streaming down her face. She thought about Darius and Marcus at home, with Mrs. Patterson probably jumping up and down on the couch. She thought about every kid who'd ever been told they weren't good enough, every voice that had been silenced, every dream that had been crushed by people with more power and less integrity. And she sang for all of them. The final note rose from her chest, a sustained C6 that rang through the Staples Center like a bell calling people home. She held it for 5 seconds. 6. 7. The sound was crystalline, perfect, impossible. Except it wasn't impossible. It was just truth. When she let the note fade and the last piano chord dissolved into silence, nobody moved. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. Then 20,000 people rose to their feet as one, and the sound that washed over Maya was like nothing she'd ever experienced. Not just applause, not just cheering. Something deeper, a recognition, a celebration. A chorus of voices saying, "We see you, we hear you, you matter." Maya stood in that spotlight, 12 years old, 4 feet 9 inches tall, tears streaming down her face, and finally understood what Ms. Johnson had meant about the hard part. Living. This was living, not the fear, not the fighting, not the lawyers and the courtrooms and the threats. This, standing in the light, sharing her voice, being exactly who she was. Sophia rose from the piano and walked to her. They held hands and bowed together, the woman who'd waited 15 years to tell her truth and the girl who'd given her the courage to speak. The audience wouldn't stop cheering. After the show, Maya found a quiet corner backstage to catch her breath. Her mother found her there, face wet with tears shaking. "Baby, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," Maya said. I'm happy, I think. I don't know. I'm feeling so much." Her mother pulled her close. "That's what living feels like when you do it right. All the feelings at once. The good and the scary and the overwhelming. That's how you know you're really alive." "Was it worth it? Everything we went through?" Her mother pulled back and looked at her. "You tell me." Maya thought about the question, really thought about it. The fear, the threats, the lawsuit, the articles about her family, the strangers calling her names, the $50,000 she'd turned down, the nights she'd lain awake wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. And then Sophia Mitchell finally credited for her voice after 15 years of silence. Marcus Webb, standing up for the truth after 3 decades of complicity. 200 kids getting scholarships they never could have afforded. An industry changing its practices because a little girl asked why. A law in California with her name on it. And tonight, standing on that stage, singing her own song, in her own voice. "Yeah," Maya said. "It was worth it." Her mother smiled. "Then that's all that matters." 3 years later, Maya Thompson was 15 years old. She'd released 2 more singles, both of which went gold. She'd performed at the White House for the president. She'd been featured on the cover of Time magazine under the headline, "The Voice That Changed Everything." But she still lived in Compton, still went to public school, still sang in the choir at New Hope Baptist Church every Sunday. The apartment was different now, larger, in a safer building with separate bedrooms for everyone, and a stove that actually worked, but they'd kept some things the same. The drawings on Darius and Marcus's wall, the kitchen table where her grandmother used to sit, the feeling of home. Chase Hendricks was a footnote. Last anyone heard, he was teaching music business at an online for-profit college, making promotional videos that nobody watched. The mansion was gone. The cars were gone. The awards were gone. Everything he'd built on lies had crumbled into dust. Maya didn't think about him much anymore. She was too busy living. Unbreakable Voices had grown beyond anything she'd imagined. 500 scholarships now. A partnership with this recording academy. A legal aid fund for artists fighting unfair contracts. A documentary in production about session singers and the hidden voices behind popular music. Sophia Mitchell had won 3 Grammys and was working on her 4th album. In every acceptance speech, she thanked Maya. "I was too afraid to speak for 15 years, she'd said at the last ceremony. "This girl showed me what courage looks like. Everything I have now I owe to a kid from Compton who refused to stay quiet." Ms. Johnson still taught at Jefferson Elementary. She'd received offers from prestigious schools all over the country and turned them all down. "My kids are here," she said whenever anyone asked. "I'm staying." The Jefferson Elementary music program was now the best funded in the district. 2 new teachers, instruments for everyone, a recording studio donated by Marcus Webb, field trips to real concerts and real studios, and every year on the anniversary of the charity gala, Maya came back to visit. She'd sit with the choir kids and tell them the story. Not the version that was in the news or the documentaries, the real version. About being scared. About trembling hands and a churning stomach. About wanting to run away but choosing to stay. "You don't have to be brave to do brave things," she told them. "You just have to decide that the truth matters more than being safe." A little girl in the front row raised her hand. "Were you ever scared?" Maya smiled. "I was terrified, every single second." "Then how did you do it?" Maya thought about the question. About the night she'd stood in that spotlight with Chase Hendricks's hand on her shoulder. About the choice she'd made in that moment. "I decided that my voice belonged to me, not to him, not to anyone. And if I was going to fail, I was going to fail telling the truth, not lying to stay safe." The little girl nodded slowly, thinking, "What if people don't believe you? Then you keep telling the truth until they do, or until they don't. Either way, you know who you are, and that's something nobody can ever take away from you." After the visit, Maya stood outside Jefferson Elementary, looking at the building where everything had started. Her mother waited in the car. Darius and Marcus were arguing about something in the back seat. Life went on, ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. Sophia called. "How was it? Good? Hard? The same questions every year?" "That's because every year there are new kids who need to hear the answers." Maya watched a group of students pour out of the building laughing and shoving each other, completely unaware that they were standing on historic ground. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked Sophia. "Regret what?" "Coming forward, all the chaos, everything that happened after." Sophia was quiet for a moment. "No. Do you?" Maya thought about her grandmother, about the words she'd carried her whole life. "Your integrity is the one thing nobody can take from you. You can give it away, but nobody can take it, so don't you ever give it away." "No," Maya said, "not for a second." "Then why ask?" "Because I want to remember what it feels like. To choose truth over comfort. To stand up when it's easier to sit down. I don't want to forget how hard it was." "You won't forget," Sophia said. "Trust me. You never forget. But the memory changes. It goes from a wound to a scar. And eventually the scar becomes a story you tell to help other people find their own courage." Maya smiled. "When did you get so wise?" "When an 11-year-old showed me what bravery looked like. Wisdom came later." They said goodbye. Maya walked to the car, slid into the passenger seat, and looked at her mother. "You okay, baby?" "Yeah, I'm okay." "Ready to go home?" Maya looked out the window at Jefferson Elementary one last time, at the place where a scared little girl had learned to sing, where a choir teacher had seen something special in a child nobody else noticed, where a journey had begun that would change an industry, inspire millions, and prove that truth spoken clearly and without apology could bring down even the mightiest lies. "Yeah," she said. "Let's go home." The car pulled away from the curb. And somewhere in Compton, a little girl was singing in her bedroom, teaching herself runs from YouTube videos, dreaming of stages she'd never seen, dreaming of being heard, dreaming of finding her own voice. Because that's what Maya Thompson had given the world. Not just a song, not just a scandal, not just a victory. Permission. Permission to speak up, permission to fight back, permission to believe that being small doesn't mean being silent. Chase Hendricks had tried to teach her a lesson about knowing her place. Instead, she had taught the world that your place is wherever you decide to stand. And Maya Thompson had decided to stand tall.